Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to be doing another animation demonstration. This one will be a little bit simpler just to understand the basics of Scratch and how to start coding on your own. What we're going to do first is view the animation that we want to eventually achieve on our own. So this is what we want our end result to actually look like. So we're going to click the green flag at the top and we're going to see what the animation is supposed to look like. Perfect. So our goal of this is to have the bunny run across the screen, sit down, and then say, "Hi, everyone." It's important that we understand different costumes, how to change backdrops, and how to make our actual sprite or the subject of our animation, which is the bunny, actually speak. That is our goal today, to learn how to do all of those things. So I'm going to open a new tab in Scratch and start a new project. This is what you'll see every time you open a new project in your Scratch account. And you can name your Scratch account or your Scratch demonstration right here, or your animation, whatever you're working on, you can name it right there. I've already named mine. And what we're going to do first is work with our backdrops. So if you look all the way to the right where it says stage, click on that. This is what we're going to be working on first, our backdrops. As you can see in our animation demonstration before, we have a fun little background of a bench room, and that's what we want. You can choose any backdrop you want, but that's the one I particularly like. And what we're going to do first is go to stage, go all the way to the bottom right hand corner and hover over that green little landscape with that plus sign right there. You should hover over it and it should turn green, and you should have the option to choose a backdrop. What I'm going to do is just click on that right there, and it should pop up with a new tab of all these different backdrops that you can do. You can do anything you'd like, but like I said, I really like that bedroom backdrop, so I'm going to choose that backdrop, and it should automatically appear on your canvas on the upper right hand side of your screen. I want to choose a new sprite because I don't really want to use a basic cat, so I'm going to choose a different one that I like. And what sprites are, just to explain a little bit, is a specific character or object that will be used in our animation. And it is important that we understand that sprites are the things that are interactive and actually moving in our animation, and our backdrops is just a solid background. So we're able to actually program our sprite to be able to move across the screen, to say something, to do turn or whatever we want our sprite to do. That's going to be the interactive component of our animation. So right now I'm going to delete the sprite because I'm not going to be using this cat. So if you can go click on your cat, it should highlight your cat right here. And what you're going to do is click that little trash can right there, and it should delete your sprite. What I'm going to do is upload a new sprite, and what I want to do for that is hover over this little cat symbol where it says choose a sprite. It should highlight green, and you should click on that. It should bring you to another screen with all these different options of different animals, different people, different objects that you could be using in your animation. But as we saw in our demonstration, I'm going to be using a rabbit or a bunny, whatever you may call it. I'm going to scroll down till I find my rabbit. Once you find your rabbit, it'll appear right on your screen. And what we're going to do first with our rabbit is go to this tab where it says costumes. So right now I am on the code tab, but I'm going to click the costumes tab to be able to edit our different costumes. As you can see in the animation that I showed you at first, it only has 3 different costumes. The first costume is that first position when the rabbit is running. It's the second position when the rabbit is running, and when the rabbit is sitting. So you have 3 total different costumes for the same sprite. So I go back to my other tab. What I'm going to be doing is using this first costume where the rabbit is running, the second costume where the rabbit is running, and this last costume where the rabbit is sitting and winking. And so I'm not going to be using this costume called Rabbit C. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm not going to be using this costume called Rabbit D. I'm going to delete that as well. And it's really important to stay organized while you're coding because it can get a little bit confusing if you don't really understand exactly what costume you're using in particular. So what I like to do is rename my costumes because it's a little bit easier for us to actually understand what we're using when we're coding. So I'm going to go to that where it says costume right here, and where it says rabbit A, I'm going to delete that actually and name it running 1. Just so I know that this is the first position of the rabbit running. And the second position we have is that position, and it's also going to make the rabbit look like it's running. So I'm going to rename it to running 2. And the last position that we have right here is the rabbit sitting. So I'm going to name it sitting. Perfect. Once we've done that, we have all of our costumes in place and we can actually start coding. You're going to go back to that code tab. So right now we're on our costumes tab. We're going to click over, press code. Once we've done that, we're going to use the first block that we always use no matter what type of animation or game, whatever you're doing in Scratch. This will be the first block you always use regardless of what type of animation you're trying to achieve. First, you're going to go to events. And what we're going to do is click this first tab right here where it says when the green flag is clicked. If we go back to our original animation, to be able to make our animation start, what did we do? We clicked that green flag and our animation started. That's what we're going to be doing for this animation as well. And every animation or any game or anything you're doing on Scratch, you're always going to be using this first block to start coding. And that is when the green flag is clicked. When we click the green flag, that is signaling our animation to start. And it signals any code that we're going to be attaching after that first block. So that first block will be used every single time we code anything. So what I'm going to do actually before we start coding is to revisit our rabbit. And if you can see our rabbit, it's a little big in proportion to the room. If you can see, it's the same size as the bed. And so we want our rabbit to look a little bit more realistic and smaller because rabbits would usually be a little bit smaller. So if you go to where it says size, and it'll be already have the size as 100, but I'm going to edit it to say 70, and then you're going to press enter, and it will significantly make the rabbit a little bit smaller. Once you've done that, we're going to start coding and get our animation started. If you could see in the original animation we did, we had our bunny start all the way to the left, a little halfway out from the left, and then it started running. What we want our bunny to do is to appear as if it is coming into the bedroom, sitting, and then saying something. So we want every time we click the green flag, our bunny always appears in that one position. And that position would be all the way to the left, kind of halfway out of the frame. I'm going to drag my bunny over there, but I'm also going to just have it in the first position because that's what we're working with. You want your bunny to be in that specific position. If you can see right here, if you see where my mouse is, that's the X coordinate and that is the Y coordinate of where our bunny is exactly right now. And that's where we want our bunny to appear every single time that the green flag is clicked. If I'm going to go to motion, you can see this specific block right here where it says go to X coordinate and Y coordinate. That X and Y coordinate isn't just any old coordinates. That's the exact coordinate as where our bunny is right now. If we move him across the screen, let's say right here, our X and Y coordinate will change automatically no matter where our sprite is on the screen. It should change automatically as well. Once you've done that, you want to be able to position our bunny in that same position we want it to be. So right now, I'm going to be working with the exact coordinate 250 and Y coordinate negative 117. That's just the one I know that will look Correct. There we go. It'll change it automatically to where we want our bunny to be. So that's the first block that we're going to use. No matter what we are doing, we want our bunny to always be in the specific position when we reset our animation. When we click that green flag, our bunny will always be in that same exact X and Y coordinate. Once we've done that, we want to make sure that every time we click that green flag, we want our bunny to be in the same costume. So we're going to say switch costume to, we want the costume to be in that first running position the bunny is in right now. If you can see the animation again, to make the bunny look like it's running, you're switching back and forth from between costume 1 and costume 2. It's making it look like the bunny is running across the screen. So that's why we're going to be switching back and forth between 2 different costumes, running 1 and running 2. The last costume, called sitting, will be the last costume we use, so that will be used towards the end. Right now, we're going to be alternating between running 1 and running 2 to make it look like it's running across the screen. So what we want to go back to is motion, and we're going to be utilizing this tool called glide 1 second to X and Y coordinate. That X and Y coordinate is exactly where the bunny is right now, and it is important that we are using glide instead of just go to X and Y coordinate. The reason as to why we're doing that is if I did go to a new X and Y coordinate and then a new X and Y coordinate, it'll make it look choppy, as if like the bunny is teleporting across the screen. We want it to look like the bunny is smoothly transitioning from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen to make it look like it's actually running and not just teleporting across the screen. So that's why it's important we use a smooth transition, and that's why we want our costume, or our bunny actually rather, our sprite to be moving smoothly and gliding from one position to the next. So instead of 1 second, because that'll take a little too long, I'm going to use 0.4 seconds. I'm going to make sure that is the first thing that I do. I'm going to glide to the same position right now, so every time I press that green flag, we're going to go right to that same position. The next thing that we're going to be doing is going to switch our costume to the next costume. So, like I said, we're alternating between running 1 and running 2, 2 different costumes we have for the same sprite. Every time we alternate those 2 different costumes, it'll make it look like the bunny is running. So we're going to switch that costume to running 2. We're going to go back to motion, and we're going to use that same glide to tool, or block rather than. So once we do that, we need to change the X coordinate. We don't particularly have to change the Y coordinate because the Y coordinate is in charge of the vertical position of our bunny. We don't need our bunny to look like a topping right now. We want it to make it just look like it's smoothly running across the screen. So instead of moving up and down, maybe we want our bunny to move left to right. That's what we want our bunny to be moving, left to right across the screen. We don't need it to be moving vertically at all. We need it to be moving horizontally. Therefore, only the X coordinate will be changing. And so the X coordinate, we want to maybe move it 50 X coordinates every time our bunny is moving. So if we click on our bunny or our code right now, it should look like the bunny is running a little bit. We want to test as we go along with our code, because it is important for us to see if we make any mistakes as we move along. It's important to catch them early on instead of waiting all the way to the end and then testing it. Because if you make a mistake, it might be a little too difficult to go back and try to analyze every single code we did and try to find the problem there. So make sure we test along every time we are doing a new code, or every few lines of code that we're working on. The next thing that we're going to be doing is switching the background again, switching the costume again to running 1. And like I said, I'm going to repeat that same thing where I'm going to be gliding and moving 50 X coordinates. So now it's going to be negative 150. And I'm going to keep doing that, switch to the next costume, running 2. And then I'm going to glide to a new position, negative 100. Then I'm going to switch my costume, to the next costume, running 1. Keep doing that until you reach the positive coordinate x coordinate of 100. And I keep doing that. Because if we move our bunny right now, if we move our bunny to, let's say, 100, like right about here, this is where we want our bunny to actually stop. So that's why we're choosing to stop at the positive x coordinate of 100. So keep going back and forth between switching your costume and making it glide to a new x coordinate. So I'm going to say -50, and the y coordinate is 117. Be sure to have that in there. And so I'm switching costume and running 2. And I'm gliding to 0 now because that's adding 50 x coordinates. Switch back and forth between the 2 costumes and then gliding to a new x coordinate. All right, this is the last x coordinate we needed to reach to because we said we wanted to reach to the x coordinate of 100. So we've gotten there now, and once we do that, we want our bunny to wait a few seconds or, a certain amount of time before we have our bunny sit in that new costume. So that sitting position is considered a new costume. We named it sitting earlier. And so what I want to do is go to Control and use this tool right here. We're going to attach that to the end. I'm actually going to edit how long. I want to wait maybe 0.2 seconds. And once I do that, I want my bunny to be sitting. So what I'm going to do is tell my bunny to go to 100, same x coordinate. I'm going to change the y coordinate to -105 because it'll look a little bit more smooth from transitioning to that last running costume to that sitting costume. We can view it and make sure it looks correct. And so I want to switch my costume to sitting. So already in that new costume, so sitting is the one we're selecting. So let's view it first before we move on to make sure we did everything correctly. Perfect. It looks very smooth, the transition from the bunny running to the bunny sitting. The last thing that we're going to want to have the bunny do is speak. So we want our bunny to wait a certain amount of time before we have the bunny speak to the audience. So you're going to have the bunny wait 1 second, and after we do that, we're going to go to looks. The last thing that we're going to be using, the last block we're utilizing today, is this first block that says say hello for 2 seconds. And whenever you see that white part of the block, that means you can edit that. So I'm going to drag and drop that to that last position, and I'm going to say, hi everyone. And I can adjust how long I want the bunny to say that for. So I'm going to say 3 seconds. So now our code should be complete. But like I said before, it's important that we make sure our animation is accurate and make sure that we don't have any mistakes. So I'm going to press the green flag to make sure that our animation looks correct. Perfect. We successfully made our animation and had our bunny do exactly what we wanted it to do. We wanted it to run across the screen, we wanted the bunny to sit down, and we wanted our bunny to speak. So thank you for joining me today and learning how to change a backdrop, how to switch costumes, how to make a sprite speak, and just learning the introductory components to Scratch. I hope you continue learning how to utilize Scratch, and please continue to stay tuned to my YouTube channel to view new content and to learn and continue to learn how to use Scratch. Thank you, everyone.